All right, Greg LaRose joins us now, editor-in-chief of Louisiana Illuminator. Thanks for being here for such a really historical conversation. It's always interesting to see Louisiana, anything before SCOTUS. But this is a pivotal voting rights law. This controls how people show up at the polls and how their numbers count. Talk about what's at stake.
Yeah, so states across the nation, especially as we see this push from the Trump administration, from Republican-led states to take another stab in the middle of a decade. That's super unusual that states would do redistricting right in the middle of a decade versus, say, a year or two after the census.
And why is that?
The administration is intent on, protecting seats that Republicans hold.
Right.
Midterms, it's history. Cyclical, you will see the party in charge typically lose power, lose significant number of seats anyway, and the Trump administration, Speaker Johnson rather, really intent on seeing that that doesn't happen. So if you've got a Supreme Court case that is saying, okay, well, we're going to throw a race out the window when it comes to redrawing districts, clearly that opens the gates for a lot of changes, especially in Republican-led states.
Give people history on how this came to be, the story of Cleo Fields, the new district lines. Give people a little bit of history of how this happened.
Sure. So every 10 years we have that decennial census that congressional seats have to reflect the makeup of your state. So there was resistance initially from the legislature based on the 2020 census, and they refused to pass a map that reflected the state's black population. We're right under a third, and you could do the math. 1 seat out of 6 doesn't come close to a third. The federal courts have said that, no, that's not going to pass muster. Right before Governor Landry takes office, he decides, look, we don't want the court to draw this district, so let's do so in a way that adds the second congressional seat that favors a black representative to where at least we can say who is out. That tossed Garrett Graves versus Julia Letlow. That moves forward. Okay. There's a challenge to that from non-black voters saying it's a gerrymander, and lo and behold, in recent weeks, Attorney General Liz Muro has said, you know what, we're going to challenge the Voting Rights Act because we feel as though that second district also is a racial gerrymander.
It's rare.
It's the quick version.
Sure. It's rare that there's also a Supreme Court justice who's from Metairie.
Yeah.
Talk about if that is going to play into the discussion that they're having. I mean,
she obviously would have, Amy Coney Barrett would have a pretty intimate knowledge of the district in question. Listening to some of her questions yesterday, I did find that she was particularly pointed in her inquiries with regards to the Trump administration and Louisiana's Solicitor General. Is that a crystal ball into how she might rule? Hard to say. You look back at the Alabama case, Milligan, in which the justices were looking at Section 2 and said, you're going to need to add another race. Kavanaugh was, and Roberts moved over to the liberal justices and forced the drawing of a second district. So it's is that apples and apples? Hard to say.
All right, and very quickly, what comes next?
So up next, we're looking for the legislature to call a special session. Gosh, that's like a whole nother conversation. But they can't redistrict. What they're likely to do is push back qualifying for next year's midterms. That would give them time to draw the map depending on when the Supreme Court rules. That's the big deal. When will they rule?
All right, this is a very superficial view, but hopefully it gives you guys lots of stuff that you're going to want to research when we come back from this break.
At lailluminator.com.